It is so great to be back. I love coming back to Chicago. I adore all of the time I have with my friends, people I literally went to kindergarten with all the way through high school. We were together having dinner last night, kind of reminiscing about those times, and once again promising that nobody would ever know about them. And I still remember going as a small child to my father's office in his little suite at the Merchandise Mart and looking out at the Chicago River. And because that was pre-air conditioning, the windows would be open, and my father tried to think of ways to keep me as a child away from leaning too far out. So he would say that there was a giant dragon that lived in the Chicago River, and therefore I shouldn't stick my head out too far. It's just wonderful being here and seeing so many of the places that I grew up with, and to see firsthand how beautiful the city looks and how much opportunity and optimism, challenges to be sure, that really mark this great city. And yes, my book is called Hard Choices, and I think that we all face hard choices. I go back a long way with the mayor. I truly am grateful for his friendship over now more than 20 years. He is his own form of an energy source. I've often thought that if there were ever a blackout in Chicago, just have Rahm hold some kind of cable and it would start to electrify again. And for me, it's a delight that we're going to sit down in just a minute to talk, to answer questions, and I hope some of yours as well. I actually write about Rahm in the book. I asked him not to read it before we sat and did our interview, but it was in the very first chapter, a chapter I rightly called Team of Rivals, because that's what it was in the beginning. A senator from Illinois ran against a senator from New York, just as had happened way back with a senator from Illinois named Lincoln and a senator from New York named Seward, and it turned out the same way. And so I was the most surprised person on earth when, after the election, then President-elect Obama called me and said he wanted to see me, and it was urgent, and I needed to come to Chicago to the transition headquarters. And I really thought, and I knew there were rumors out there that he might ask me to serve in the cabinet, but I really thought it was more about just showing unity, facing up to the terrible problems that we were inheriting, a financial collapse, 2 wars, so much else. It's easy to forget just how deep a hole we were in back then. And we had a lot of work to do, and the president-elect, when he said to me, I want you to be Secretary of State, I said, you know, really, there's so many other people. I gave him names, as I write in the book. I encouraged him to look elsewhere. He said, no. He said, I'm going to have my hands full. That was an understatement. Trying to rebuild the economy, making some very hard choices about how to do that. And yet we can't forget the rest of the world, because the rest of the world was looking at us in a quite negative way for all kinds of reasons. And the economic crisis was putting everybody on edge. And he said, look, I'm going to be at home working on the economy. I need you to be out traveling the world, making the case for renewing American leadership. After I said no a couple of times, you'll read about that too, eventually I said yes. And the reason I said yes was finally I asked myself, suppose the tables had been reversed and it was I who was inheriting all these problems, and I wanted someone in my cabinet who I thought was the right person to do the work that needed to be done. would I want that person to say no, even if it was a good reason? I wanted to return to the Senate. I wanted to continue the work I had been doing, and I intended to be a very strong partner with the incoming president. But at the end of the day, the president was asking me to serve, and I agreed to, and we went to work. And one of the most important people in putting together this team of rivals and in keeping our focus was Ram. He was a great source of support and encouragement. He also was making it impossible for me to say no to the president, because he would tell me, I'm sorry, he's not available to talk to you right now. And I said, well, you know, Ram, I really feel like I owe it to him to make it clear I can't do this. Well, I'm sorry, you're just, I can't put you on because I can't find him. You know how Ram is. And it all worked out. And then we went to work. And Ram, as chief of staff, helped to keep everybody moving in the same directions, because we had more work than we could say grace over. And so in this book, which I wanted to write because I thought it important to try to memorialize what those 4 years were like. You know, yes, we're now finally back to the number of jobs that we lost, but we're nowhere near where we need to be in terms of getting the economy growing and getting good jobs for people who deserve them, and rising incomes and all the other economic issues that we confront. And we still have a lot of dangers and unpredictable situations around the world. And so I write about both what we accomplished, from my negotiating a ceasefire in Gaza to defend Israel's security and head off another war in the Middle East, to mobilize an international coalition to impose crippling sanctions against Iran, to standing up to China and their claims to control the entire South China Sea and what that would mean for trade and commerce. And I'm very excited to share both what we did and also to go into some of the difficult moments, the hard choices that didn't work out well, which I'm sure we will talk about. So after spending more than a year in the little attic study at our house in New York, it's a real thrill to be able to talk about the book, what's in it, answer questions, and try to get people to really think through what they believe America means in today's world, what they believe America should be doing in today's world, because I think America matters. And it matters not only to us, obviously, but it matters to the rest of the world. Now, there will be some world leaders who might not be happy when they read my book, and I'm talking to you, Vladimir. But at this point in my life, I'm just going to say what I know, what I believe, and let the chips fall, because after all, I think we have some hard choices to make here at home. And I'm excited to have this chance to sit down and talk with Ram, answer questions, both his and yours. So let's get started, Mr. Mayor.